so I'm going to invite Gail up here to introduce our amazing speaker for today. We've got two, man. We are rocking today. So, yeah.
Thank you, Lorie. Well, I'm so pleased to be here today to introduce Lorie Hearn. She's a lifelong newsaholic and truth seeker. Her passion is accountability journalism that holds powerful people to answer to the public. Lorie founded inewsource in 2009 after decades of reporting and editing in newspapers on both coasts, including most recently the San Diego Union Tribune, where she had been a reporter, Metro editor, and finally senior editor for Metro and Watchdog Journalism, before retiring to found inewsource. inewsource, the winner of scores of national and local awards, stands out today for its unique integration of in-depth journalism and community-powered reporting, carried out by everyday people who are trained and paid to attend public meetings. Many of you were here a while ago when Lorie did a training they're called Documenters. A graduate of the University of Delaware, Lorie was a Nieman Foundation Fellow at Harvard in 1994 and 95, with excellent credentials. Lorie, I welcome you today.
Thank you, Gail, and thank you all for having me today. Gail sent me the blurb that was in your April newsletter, I believe, and I have to wave this up and down, not to say that I'm going to try to be a downer, but for those of you who have not read On Tyranny, I strongly suggest it. And I'm going to try not to be too dark today. I just got back from 2 journalism conferences back to back, and a lot of the messaging there was dark, but it's not all bad. There are many of us trying to do what we can to save and rebuild local journalism. But my talk today is basically going to be one of my favorite and most passionate subjects, and that is local news, why it's important, why people need to support it. First of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about inewsource. Gail told you a little bit about me, but I started inewsource back in 2009 when the Union Tribune, which many of you I'm sure are familiar with, was sold the first time. It was owned by the Copley family for more than 80 years, and a private equity company came in the recession and bought it, and the layoffs began. I was a senior editor, so one of my responsibilities was figuring out who to lay off in the newsroom next, which was a career I did not want to pursue. So I leapt into starting a nonprofit news organization. Nonprofit news was a pretty new concept. Everybody thought that maybe this was the way to go since commercial media was no longer able to make it with advertising and subscriptions. Nonprofit news is not a business model. It is simply a section of the IRS code that allows people to give us money and take a tax deduction. It also allows us to qualify for foundation grants. So I leapt into this new world at the time and started inewsource, dedicated to investigative journalism. And so briefly, I will just tell you that, what makes us unique, as Gail was talking about, we combine citizen journalists with our trained investigative journalists, and we believe that that leads to powerful results. If you listen to the community about what they are concerned about rather than what journalists think they should be concerned about, it's amazing the kind of journalism you can produce and the impact you can have. We also, this is the Documenters, as Gail mentioned, we also pride ourselves on our illustrated storytelling. Some of you may have been fans of Steve Green when he was at the Union Tribune as an editorial cartoonist. He left the Union Tribune when it was sold 2 years ago. By the way, it's been sold 5 times now since 2009. Steve left and we hired Steve basically to do some cartooning, but to really take on what we call illustrated storytelling. We do a lot of long form investigative work, and not everybody wants to read 5,000 or 10,000 words about something. So Steve's special gift is translating investigative words into illustrations. For those of you who have not had a chance to see his fentanyl project called Fentanyl Decade of Death, I should let you know that just this week we were a finalist for a Pulitzer, which is really a proud moment for me. We were hoping to win, of course, but being in the top 3 as a finalist is a very big deal, and I had always hoped that I would be part of a Pulitzer Prize winning team. at inewsource, and this was a great achievement. This was just announced on Monday, and we did win for this fentanyl project, which was pretty amazing. So we do this illustrated storytelling, trying to bring more people in and have them have more access to the important information we feel people need. We have a collaborative mindset, which is kind of unusual for a news organization. We've always been, as an industry, very competitive. When I was a journalist, when I was a reporter, I loved having the scoop. I loved beating other people. But I recognize that because the resources are so limited today across the board, that we need to be working together as news organizations to make sure we're not duplicating effort and we are getting our news to the greatest audiences. So we try to collaborate with local news organizations. We're working with one in Coronado right now, and we're talking about working with the other two. That causes a little bit of problem because I know they are very competitive, but we're working with other small community papers, trying to give them more content to reach their hyper-local audiences. We also have a very good relationship with KPBS. For those of you who are public media fans, we've been a partner of KPBS's for almost the entire time inewsource has been around. If you listen to the radio in the morning, you probably can hear them say, from our media partner inewsource, and then you will hear one of our reporters deliver a story that we have reported. So it's very good exposure for us. We also do the same for television for KPBS. And finally, we're members of the Trust Project. And for those of you who have never heard of that, it's an international project based in California. And it is dedicated to building trust with consumers in news organizations. And you have to meet certain standards to qualify as a Trust Project member. And that means you have to meet certain editorial standards, certain transparency standards, certain inclusion and diversity standards. A lot of it has to do with just transparency and letting consumers know how you do your work, what your sources are, so that they can have some trust in you. I always tell people that I talk to that it's not just about the news organization, it's about you understanding how you can find trustworthy news organizations, and that's all about your responsibility to figure that out sometimes. I say that if a news organization tells you that they are trusted, they've been around for 50 years, you can trust us, that doesn't necessarily mean you can trust what they do. Just because they've been around for 50 years, that often can be a detriment. But if they can't tell you specifically how they fact check, how they correct stories that are inaccurate, how they are transparent about data that they get, what's in the data, what isn't. If they can't explain to you why you should believe what they give you as news, you should be doubtful. So at inewsource, we feel very good that I can give you a list of reasons you can believe our stories. So why should you care about local news? The American Journalism Project, which is a national organization started in 2019, it is a philanthropy, a venture philanthropy group, they call themselves. They basically go to large foundations and get money from them, and then they give the money to news organizations like us, nonprofits. And we got a big grant from the AJP a few years ago. It's now been spent down, but we're still part of their cohort. But this is what they have to say. The loss of local news is having an insidious effect on our democracy, contributing to polarization, a decrease in voting, and a decrease in government accountability. Local news is an essential lever to healthy democracy. It helps communities understand what's at stake in local elections, equips them to get involved in the political process by voting, contacting officials and running for office, and reduces political polarization and holds public officials accountable. Kind of sounds like a lofty reason, but you and I all know, given particularly what's going on now, that it's very, very important that people be informed and that they not close their minds and engage in news avoidance, as wonderful as that seems sometimes. We really do have to stay connected and in touch with what's happening locally and nationally. So you probably all heard about news deserts, right? There's a lot of talk about how there are areas of the country where there are no newspapers. There aren't any digital online news. There are a lot of places, particularly rural areas, that have no news. So I think about the San Diego County news landscape as not a news desert. I think of it as a news mirage. And basically, you can see that we look like we have a lot of news organizations here. We have a Metro newspaper that still exists. We have public media. We have a lot of community news. Actually, research has shown that there are 13 county-wide sources of news, including commercial TV, the Union Tribune, 10 ethnic and in-language media, 7 community newspapers and groups that include more than one publication. That sounds like a lot. I mean, you all look at commercial news at night, you know how many stations we have that have news programs. But what I say is, much of that is an echo chamber. It's a loop. You hear the same news on the same stations in the same news organizations. And there isn't a lot of what I call original reporting. That is where you have reporters who are digging out stories, talking to community members about issues that are not being covered. Resources are greatly diminished. When I was at the Union Tribune, 20 years ago when I was the Metro editor, I was in charge of all the local coverage in the county. We had more than 400 journalists in the newsroom. Today there are 65, 67, and that includes sports and arts. And I mean, when you think about what is not being covered, it's just a tragedy. We don't know what we don't know because people are not telling us. Papers like the Chula Vista Star News that I remember was a robust, great, little community newspaper that did great work. I don't even think it has a single dedicated reporter now. It's part of a chain of news organizations that kind of just operate with legal ads and reprinting different news from their chain. And again, like I said, not much original reporting. News, I feel, here is often an echo chamber for people who are listening to breaking news. There are what I call drive-by news sites. And that means you go to a news site and you just get the headlines, some car crash here and the crime there and the mayor said this, and it's all like just quick stuff, and you feel like you're getting some information, but it's very surface, it's not very deep. So there are bright lights here. Like I said, I'm going to try not to be too much of a downer, but the Union Tribune has held steady for 2 years since its 5th owner, which is Alden Capital. Those words are very scary to me. Alden is a venture capital company, and they're often called a vulture capital company. They own about 200 newspapers, and their business model has been to slice them down and down and down and down, raise the subscription rates, and finally the newspaper, if it continues to exist, is just a shell of itself. They also fill their newspapers with news from other areas. So you'll look at the Union Tribune, you'll see a lot more national news and regional news from other places where Alden owns newspapers. They own the paper in Orange County, they own the paper in Riverside. The good thing about the Union Tribune, and I still have very good friends who work there, and I admire the editor greatly. I think they're fighting the good fight. They haven't had a lot of reductions since the initial purchase, which caused them to lose about 30 people. So they're doing what they can. KPBS continues to grow its newsroom. Voice of San Diego, many of you I'm sure have heard of it. It's a 20-year-old nonprofit, and it basically, in my opinion, owns local political news. Axios is a for-profit entity that's a national entity. There are Axioses all over the country. They provide highlights of news in a newsletter format with, fun facts that get people's attention. Times of San Diego is one of those I affectionately call a drive-by news site. We actually have a partnership with Times of San Diego where they churn out at least 20 news stories a day, providing breaking news. And then, as you all know, there are lots of community newspapers that are kind of doing the best they can. And in my efforts, though, to collaborate with a lot of these community papers, they just tell me how strapped they are for resources. And if anything, they want to collaborate with us and our Documenters program, which I'll talk about in a second, in trying to get more news to their constituents. So, the movement. I feel in some ways like we are rowing against the tide. The Logan Symposium and AJP are up here because those are the 2 conferences I just returned from. The Logan Symposium for Investigative Journalism is an annual conference held at UC Berkeley, and it is just about investigative journalism. And it's kind of my happy place. Every year I go to this conference, and it's some of the most respected and high-profile journalists in the world talking about their journalism, how they did stories. And really it's just kind of, I don't get as much chance to talk about and participate in journalism anymore, which is the reason I started inewsource, because I spend much more of my time on the business side trying to sustain the organization. But that's, like I said, my truly happy place. But Logan this year was full of journalists who had lots of fears and sad stories, many out of Washington, many cautionary tales about fears that the administration's gonna come in and take our 501c3s, that they're gonna, do all kinds of things they already call us the enemy of the people, and the things they do to try to engender distrust in the legitimate media. So we have our work cut out for us. When I say rowing against the tide, sometimes I feel like we really are doing that. Then I went to New Orleans straight from that conference in Berkeley to the American Journalism Project's convening of its grantees. And that convening is all about sustainability. How are we going to continue to support local news operations across this country? And there was a lot of fear at this conference too, but there were a lot of very inspiring stories from local news organizations who are doing great work in their local communities. In the Deep South, there are a proliferation of new nonprofits that have grown that are covering corruption and inequities and all kinds of things that were just being neglected before. The city is a nonprofit in New York City, and it's just really giving the city leaders a lot of hell, basically, because the New York Times is a great newspaper, but I don't think anybody would say it's great at covering New York. And the city is really trying to do that, as is something called New York Focus, which is based in Albany, and they really cover the state government. So there are a lot of nonprofit news orgs that are doing really good work. Most of us, honestly, are supported by foundations who believe in the mission and the importance of news to our local democracy. But we're also supported by individuals like you. People who are what I call the latte a month members. They give us $5 or $6 a month, which is great. It's like a subscription if you were to subscribe to the Union Tribune, although that's a lot more than $5 or $6 a month now. To people who give us much larger gifts because they really appreciate the quality and the quantity of work we're doing. So, there are the threats from Washington, which I mentioned, that some are very real, but we're trying not to be fear mongers, and we're really trying to be based more in reality and just protect our organizations by having our finances in shape and having our labor practices in shape and all the kinds of things that the government could come after you for. And we're focusing on doing really great journalism. And we're not gonna back down when people come after us and say they didn't think that story was accurate. Well, fine, then tell me exactly what was wrong with it. Public distrust, as we know, is at an all-time high. We can start to blame cable news for that. Many years ago, when cable news came onto the scene, where you could suddenly start tuning in just to people who are talking to you and your political opinion, and you don't have to listen to the balance of anything. Now, of course, it's even crazier with the micro niche kinds of journalism that also proliferate misinformation and disinformation. There are all kinds of pink slime sites all across this country that are absolutely, all they do is publish lies, but they appear to be credible in the way they look, news organizations. So we're fighting against all of that. And one of the things that keeps me going is this great quote from a man named John Thornton, who actually is kind of one of the fathers of nonprofit journalism back in 2008. And he was a venture capitalist in Texas and made a lot of money on it, mainly a lot of tech. And he had decided that he was going to see if he could make some money on newspapers. And he was going to start a news organization and make money. And after spending a lot of time looking into the business model, he realized you can't make money on news. It's not going to happen. And he was one of the ones who started a great nonprofit called the Texas Tribune in Austin, which is a statewide newspaper. And he was also one of the founders of the American Journalism Project. And I do talk about him in the past tense, sadly, because he died a week and a half ago at the age of 59. But he was so enthusiastic about the mission He was a great mentor to me, and inewsource was a key person in giving us our first grant from AJP. But this was his light bulb that went on. He was looking at whether you could make money or should make money on news. And he said, that's when the light went on for me, that maybe public service journalism is a public good, like the national defense and clean air and clean water and good schools and all of these things, right, that we support, that we can't think about news as being a nice to have. News is incredibly important to our quality of life and the decisions we make every single day. So how do we stand out here in the local market? There's the Voice of San Diego, there's the Union Tribune, there's KPBS. Like I said, we do collaborations with news organizations. I'm most proud of that philosophy. The Documenters, as Gail mentioned, is a new program we brought to San Diego a year and a half ago. And essentially what we do is we train people and pay them to attend public meetings that are not being attended by trained journalists. And this does two things. It informs and empowers community people to understand government better, and it empowers them to participate in government by attending these meetings, and it gives them a credibility. They take notes at the meetings. We publish the notes with the person's name on them. They get paid. They wear a lanyard that says, I'm a documenter working for a news organization here to document this meeting. And if stories come out of those notes, we have a workflow where the notes get written by the documenter, and then our reporters look at the notes and pull out the things that they feel are really spicy or interesting to people, and then they do bigger stories. And then we circulate those stories out to a larger audience. So that's meant to be kind of this bigger workflow to reach as many people as we can with more news that they're not currently privy to. Our illustrated storytelling I just mentioned to you, I really would recommend to you our fentanyl project, A Decade of Death. It looks like a graphic novel because it's in slides. We're actually looking for some funders to fund the publication of this fentanyl project as a comic book so that we can give it to schools. We're also working with behavioral health centers and others. The DEA actually has an educational website where they put things up, and they have put the fentanyl project up there because they believe it is really important educational material. Collaborations I mentioned, and then I also explained the Trust Project. If you look at our website and you go to a story where you see a byline, next to the reporter's name is a little T, and it says why you can trust inewsource. And if you click on that, it takes you to the page about the Trust Project and the trust indicators that we follow in terms of like why you can believe this story. So I would be negligent if I didn't tell you the end of our fiscal year is June 30th, and we are racing to the end, as everybody is. Our end of the year campaign is called Good for All, a campaign to fully support the public good that inewsource supports. So we would love to have all of you participate in that. I have plenty of materials over here if you'd like to look at our impact report for the last year, or take a look at signing up for our newsletter. I would love to leave here knowing that at least 10 people have signed up for our newsletter. It's not something that you get all the time. You get it when there's a news story, and we're not the kind of people who bombard you with news all the time, but hopefully the news that we're producing is of interest to you. A couple of really great events we have coming up. If you can mark June 14th on your calendar, it is a Saturday. It's a little bit short notice, but we have landed Marco Werman. Those of you who are NPR nerds know Marco Werman is the host of The World. inewsource has actually had some of its stories featured on The World, and they have been about the Tijuana sewage crisis. So we have been educating people far and wide about the crisis down there at the border. So June 14th, we're going to have Marco Werman come and speak to our Spotlight Club members downtown. So we'd love to have you all there. So thank you for your attention, and I'd love to have any questions.
We've got about 5 minutes for questions. How does one become a Spotlight member?
Our Spotlight Club is what we call our donor circle, and that is people who contribute $1,200 or $100 a month to inewsource, and then you're in the door, and you get invitations to our events and also other benefits. We send Spotlight Club members, for example, advance notice when we have a really good investigation that's gonna land the next day, to give you like the sneak peek that it's coming up. Spotlight Club members have more access to me, like having coffee or engagement with our reporters as well. We have small gatherings with our reporters so they can talk about their work and answer questions about their beats. So we have some benefits, not a lot. It's mainly just supporting the organization.
You want to let them know there's information?
Yeah, there's information over here on this table. Yes?
Is there information about becoming a documenter?
There isn't specific information here, but if you go to our website, it's right on our homepage. And it says documenters, and you go there. There's actually trainings here, I think once a month. And the program works where we train people. It's like a 2-hour training. Once you get trained, we list the meetings that are coming up in the next week. You get to pick a meeting to go to, and it goes from there. Yes?
You didn't mention Voice of America?
Voice of San Diego?
No, the Voice of America.
Oh, yes?
That broadcast was
Right.
all over the world. Apparently Trump has tracked that.
He has. I think the latest news I saw is that it was one of the courts, I think, said that they had to continue paying for a brief period of time. But there's, yeah. I don't know how long that's gonna last. Yes?
Well, that reporter on June 14th, that is the rally downtown. You do know that, yes?
What time is that?
That is from 10 till 1.
Okay, this event starts at 4.
It starts.
Yeah. It's down on the Broadway Pier.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you for telling me that, though.
Yeah.
It's hard to plan things where there isn't a baseball
there's
game
not a
or something.
protest.
Yes, Laura.
I have a quick question. How important are letters to the editor from people like us in terms of making sure that the voices of all are heard? How important is that? I mean, you have history of journalism. I know inewsource doesn't do it, but many local papers do. So how important is that?
I think they are important, and we've actually talked recently about starting to have some commentaries or letters to the editor, citizen voices on our website, and making it clear that that's what they are. I can tell you, and you probably already know this, that calling your local representatives is very important. I have a sister who lives in Philadelphia who calls her representatives every day and just says something. Because she said they pay attention to how many people call and what they say. So I know that really makes a difference. Also, for those of you, when you hear, there are some measures that are going to be pending in the state to support local news. Actually, the legislature put $22 million in the budget about 4 years ago to support local news, and that has provided jobs for emerging journalists in different areas. They're actually employed at UC Berkeley and placed in newsrooms like ours. Philip Salata who's the journalist who covers the Tijuana sewage issue here. He is a California fellow. We're hoping to renew that funding for these fellows because it's really important to bolster the amount of news and the resources in these communities. And we're also trying to get a better deal out of the state and Google and Meta and all those folks for the money for all the content they steal from us.
Lorie,
Thank you very much.
thank you so much. Okay.
So I just want to show you, these are the pieces of paper that you'll find right here that tell you how to find their website and how to sign up. You said you wanted 10.
Newsletter signups.
Okay, however, a latte a month is more than $5. Okay, I mean, you can't get a latte for $5. So I'm looking on here and I do see like $10. $10 a month is only 120. Is my math right? Will it still only have 12 months? Is that right? Okay, all right, I'm gonna commit to that today.
Thank you.
Okay, if you're gonna commit as well to some sort of support, I see a hand in the back. Would you please let her know before she leaves so that she knows she got her 10? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Lorie, thank you. Thank you. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you so much.
So my name is Nina, I'm part of InclusioNado, and thank you for this opportunity to talk about it. InclusioNado was formed in 2020 when those students marched to speak about what it was like for them in the school district. Okay. We listened. We believed the students of color, and we believed the Black athletes that said they were bullied and harassed in the classroom, in the hallway, in the locker room, on the field, and off campus as well. We heard from the LGBTQ students that some of them were slurred daily, and that was their experience going to school. We also heard from students that said they wanted to learn more about the diverse world off the island. Some of the graduates said that they felt unprepared for college and the diversity they experienced there and some of the dialogues that were happening with their colleagues. So we went on a journey and we found books, videos, all kinds of data and resources that we've gathered and shared with the community, and we started a learning hub. It's on our website and it's full of great books for all ages, movies for all ages if you want to educate your kids or learn yourself about the history that we never were taught. And some of it's just pure fun. Some of the books for kids are great. We invite you to go look at that on our website. For me, the work with the Learning Hub has been really enriching. Sometimes very maddening as you learn things, but also very joyful learning about other cultures. I highly recommend it. But the learning has also been challenging. This journey has also been very difficult because we continue to hear the stories from students and families about the pain when their kids are bullied and harassed at school. And those stories are the same that we heard from graduates from a decade ago. So why is this? Why is this still happening? And what has really changed in a decade? One of the things we know now is the victims are getting younger. There's more incidences in the middle school, which has incredibly difficult consequences for those kids. Today, it is too easy for a bully. All they have to do is take a phone, create a false narrative, press send to a group chat, and in an instant like that, a kid is a victim, feels isolated and excluded. We hear from parents when kids and teens are demeaned or hurt because of the color of their skin, their gender, their sexual identity, or their, or just being different. Those are the stories that come to us. Our job has been to amplify the student voices, those brave students that spoke up and talked to the press and went public with it 5 years ago. We've amplified their voice to the press, at the school, in community forums, and with the community at large. Well, there's some great allies. There's amazing allies that are in this room, people that have marched, that have written letters for us, that have really supported us. But we've also been met with a really strong reaction of, not on this island. The bullies must be from outside this island. Or my kids never experienced that, it can't be. There's been very strong resistance to what we've been working on. In 5 years, despite our continued effort to advocate for specific low-cost changes, there has been little change. The climate is still difficult for many kids. This work is challenging not just because we keep hearing the stories, but because of this thing called the bystander syndrome. And that's where the victim gets bullied and then nobody responds, and the victim is standing alone. I heard a Black student talk about what it was like to have a group of boys corner her and call her the N-word. And she described bystander syndrome really well. She said the first hit is when you get bullied, but the second hit that is just equally as hard is when no one stands up for you. And we've seen that with students both on and off campus, and we've even seen that with adults. So that's part of the education that we work towards. Right now, we actually realize that our voice as InclusioNado will continue to be marginalized as the students' experience has been marginalized until we get a greater response from the community at large. We actually need more adult voices supporting us. So the students who marched came up with this name. We love it, InclusioNado. They had a vision that this community would be very inclusive, that their hometown would be inclusive, and that's their vision. We're not there yet, but we are a group of really determined moms that aren't giving up until every kid feels safe here. So I'm gonna turn it over to one of our founding board members, the fearless Marely Ramirez, who I know you all know, who has tirelessly volunteered for 5 years, helping families and students that are going through the process of trying to deal with how do you send a kid back to school after they've been severely bullied? What can we do to support them?
Thank you, Nina. By the way, Nina has also been with us for about 5 years. She is a relentless mom of a minority kid, student of color. Thank you, Nina, for your work.
So good to be back. I'm gonna use my own mic. I took a break from the Dem Club. I can't live without you guys. I know the hard work you're doing. I know how exhausting it is. And know that just because I'm not an active member of the club, I did pay my dues, but I'm being useful elsewhere. So you think that we learn as a community a huge lesson from the tortilla incident? Do you guys remember that? Well, it stained the name of our town. And the hope was that the district, and by the way, I'm so happy you're here as one of our school board members, because we hope you can take the message back. The hope was that the school district would learn so much from that awful, traumatizing experience for many students, that they would put the proper training for coaches to do the right thing, to stop the bullying. I have bad news for you. It has not stopped. And it starts with the coaches. If the coaches are the bullies, what can the students expect? We've tracked 2 incidents of bullying at the middle school. That's alarming. One's one too many, 2 forget it. And it's the adults who are the problem within the school district. So we hope that the guidelines from the CIF, the California Interscholastic Federation guidelines, are actually used by the district to make sure that the coaches have the training to be role models to our students. Otherwise, we have a huge problem in sportsmanship. So that's my first item on the list of bad news. Second, we have seen more and more cases of students using the N-word to harass and bully minority students. More and more. That's a problem that perhaps as much as the school board is trying to solve and put programs, which I haven't heard of programs. What is the culture within the district that allows students to say, I don't think so. You will not call me that. Instead, the intimidation continues. And the trauma for those minority students continues. Not okay. Our students find themselves feeling alone. Not only that, we have more than a few cases, which is also alarming, where students have contemplated suicide. The N-word, because you're different, because you're part of the LGBTQ community, because I flat out can't get away with it, I will bully. Alert the system. We've had 2 deaths within 3 years. 2 CMS students have died. Do we need more? How many more do we need as a community to stand up? You don't need to have a student in the district to stand up, to be part of the change. Yes, we need financial support. But most importantly, we need you to start questioning what the school district is actually doing. Where is the accountability? Why are these students contemplating suicide? And why are they actually killing themselves? While the district can do a lot, we can do more. We can do a lot more. Please join us. Be a volunteer with an organization. We're looking for community members to write letters to the school board and the newsletter, because we have to talk about this. We cannot pretend that Coronado is beautiful and it's absolutely exemplary. It's not an exemplary. Sorry, I'm a minority learning English. Is that how you say it? Anyway, if we're going to lead by example, that sounds better. We have to stand up and talk about these issues, because it impacts our community, the county, the state, the nation, and our entire global existence. The political climate is very, very much in favor of bullying, harassing, intimidating. And our students are also feeling that. We don't want that to be fomented within the school district. So I invite all of you to ensure that the school district is doing everything they can to protect our students, because they are failing us. Failing us. There is no other word. If this year a student committed suicide and there was bullying involved, not okay. We're part of the problem if we stay silent. Speak up. Question. Seek answers. We're relying on all of us for this to end. So we have flyers around. There's a QR code. Sign up to be a volunteer, to write letters, to help us out. We're looking, if you are a lawyer who understands education or knows a lawyer who would be willing to help us, we need one. Why? The school district has a formal complaint process. It's about 27 pages of, trust me, I have no idea what is written. When a parent is stressed out because their child has been attacked, they cannot go through those 26 pages. It's lawyer chatter. And they remain silent, meaning the parent and the student, because they don't know what to do. There's a lot of intimidation. There's a lot of this frightening feeling of retaliation. So we need a lawyer to educate Coronado. We need a lawyer to educate our organization so that formal complaints come forward. We don't need another lawsuit, do we? Towards the school district. We need to be part of the difference. But this is where we are. This is where we are. It's gotten so bad that parents are saying, I need a lawyer. This is too much. Too much. Please help us out. Your contributions will help us get speakers. The last speaker we cannot afford. We'll cover the topic of pornography, cell phones, and teens. Kids as young as 10 years of age. The speaker costs $700, maybe $800. We can't afford her. And it's a topic that impacts all of us. Your grandkids, your kids, your neighbors. Stand with us, grab a sign, put it in your front yard, by your window. That's not possible. Sign up, get our newsletter. That's not possible. Go to our website, go to the Learning Hub. Learn about how being different is a good thing. It's a healthy thing, and it's something that gives the human experience strength. Thank you very much.
Being the mother of 2 boys of color that went through this school system, I wish InclusioNado had been around when they were here. When I told them it existed now, they said, yeah, wish it had been there when they were here. Okay, I'm going to invite Howard forward. But don't forget, InclusioNado does have signs. So before you leave, if you're willing to put one, mine is worn out from when I first got one years ago, whenever you first did signs. So if there's one left, I'll grab one. If not, I'll catch you guys in the next round. But Howard,
we have plenty.
You got plenty? Okay, good. Okay, Howard.
Keep this in your mouth.
Yes, ma'am. You probably don't need it, but I'll keep it in my mouth anyway. Okay, we'll try to keep this short. There's a festival to attend, which I've started already. I'm here to talk about CCAT. Unfortunately, I'm pinch hitting Luann Miller, who is the guiding force behind this effort. Unfortunately, cannot make it today. CCAT is Community Casualty Awareness Training. And this is an effort that's being brought forth from the Rotary Club. You can see my little outfit here. Luann is the past president of Rotary, and also her career was in law enforcement. And she was at a concert in the park, and it occurred to her, what would happen here if there was a mass shooting? Would the people know how to respond? And she got the police department, the fire department, the city of Coronado, and Sharp involved in this effort as well. The division chief, one of the division chiefs of the fire department, Brian Standing, is involved and does a lot of the training with us. We've had a bunch of sessions already, and we've trained around 500 Coronadans so far. The whole idea is to ask yourself a question. Would you know what to do in the event of an active shooter to save somebody else's life? Do you know what's in a bleed-out kit? Do you know how to perform chest compressions? Do you know how to use an AED? Do you know how to apply a tourniquet? If your answer is no to any one of these questions, you should take this course. So many of us travel. We're always in situations, either home or abroad, where you can actually save a life. And the training you receive at this course, which takes an hour and a half, which is done at the Emergency Operations Center at the police department, excuse me. So when you walk up the steps to the police department, instead of going left to get to the police department, you go right, and there's a door there to the EOC. like I said, I apologize for losing my train of thought. The course is free. The next course is May 27th, and I do have a sign-up sheet here. There is an information sheet in the back on the table that you're free to take. The idea with the sign-up sheet is so that we know how many people are attending. Joe, if you can take this from me and start this going around, please. And if you do sign up, feel free to bring somebody with you as long as they are 16 years of age or older.
What time?
1:30 to 3 o'clock on May 27th is the next course. But they are given a couple times a month. So if you can't make this one, there will be other courses available. And Luann's contact information is on the sheet. We are also going to send that sheet I just showed you. We're going to send it out to the membership. Steph has the information, and we're going to send this sheet around so that you can be in contact with Luann. I'll be happy to answer quickly. Any questions? Okay. Thank you, Lorie.
Thank you.
I do encourage you, as a pastor, we have had professionals come in to teach us and our staff what to do in case of an active shooter during worship. So there are things that we learned that we wish we didn't have to know, but we're glad we do. So Howard, thank you. I do encourage you to look that up. Gail is going to present something from strategic planning.
Okay. You could use this microphone. It works better than the other one.
So hello again. This time I'm up here to tell you about our strategic planning event, which is going to be on Saturday, May 31st from 10 to 1. You've all gotten an email asking you, telling you about it, asking you to RSVP. If you haven't already signed up, please do. As part of the planning for that event, we sent around a survey. We had great response. I can't remember the number now, but you know, usually like 10% or something to a survey is good. 78, and as a percent of our membership, 30%, so really good, a significant level, and really shows your interest. And when we did that, we said, okay, the first 25 people would be eligible for a drawing, for a gift certificate, $50. The one would be to Garage Buena Forchetta, and the other to Blue Ridge Hospitality, which has multiple restaurants here on the island. So with that, I ran off the top 25, taking out the board and the people who were in charge of things. We don't get to do that, and put it in a basket. And
You want me to, since I can't win.
Since you can't win, okay. This first one is for Blue Ridge Hospitality, Village Pizzeria, Steak, Moo Time, and Little Frenchies. And the winner is Marcy Strider. Very good. I know she's not here today, but
We'll contact her.
yeah. Okay, and the second winner is for Garage Buena Forchetta.
This is my favorite. You sure I can't win?
No. Oh, Frank King, he is here.
Yay!
Congratulations, Frank. We really appreciate you getting those surveys in quickly like that, and we hope to see you all at the strategic planning meeting. Coffee and donuts to start, and a box gourmet lunch. With that, Lorie?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Is Sally, there you are. Sally is going to share what's happening with Go Team and some opportunities to be involved.
No. Oh, I guess I can come back here. Right?
Just definitely use that.
Okay, for sure. It's to your house. That's why you're not.
Okay, I am here because Patty's not here, and when Patty's not here, oh my gosh, it takes like 8 of us to fill those damn big shoes of hers. So she keeps sending me all these emails, okay, be sure and tell them about this one. Stop. Anyway, going in, I'm a linear person, so there's the strategic planning that you just heard about. The next thing that Patty will be contacting you all about is about the Go Team. And if you're new, a year ago, I didn't know what Go Team, what are you talking about? It's a grassroots organization, I believe. These are the people, this is the team that, either makes phone calls or knocks on doors or just walks around and hands out information. And you don't have to knock on anybody's door who's a Republican, okay? You don't have to knock on any crazy people's doors. It's just okay. No, but you're not going to get into a political fight. Most people really actually appreciate information, and we will be knocking on doors or making phone calls for Paloma and Aguirre, because she's running for the County Board of Supervisors. Those ballots are going to go out the week of June 2nd. And so that's when you're busy. You don't wait until the election day, which is July 1st. Okay, most people have already sent in their ballot, so you hurry up and get people the information that is and why it's very important for them to vote, to break the tie. Because it doesn't say Democratic behind each of these, the two people running. It doesn't say Democrat or Republican, but we do note that they have different points of views. Patty will be sending out something about Go Team, and that it really, the first time I did it was for this last November election. I was like, the first door you knock on, you're like, oh my God, please give me strength. And it's just actually delightful experience. It's not scary. You have a list of these Democrats, and they appreciate your recommendation. Everybody knows who they want to vote for senator and president at that point, but they didn't know anybody else. You know, whether you look down that list and you go, whatever. And so it's very, very helpful. I know that I was a teacher and I was always a union rep or whatever, and I would put out who we would recommend, and people always appreciated that. The other thing, so that's the first thing that will kind of be coming up, but the second thing will be super fun and very important also is the No Kings protest that's going to be taking place downtown at the Civic Center Plaza. And just if you went to the last one, the hands-off one, it's the same location, and you can always get one of these fabulous shirts for free to wear. And and it'll be Saturday, June 14th, and it's supposed to take place between 10 o'clock and 1 o'clock. If you've ever been to a protest, it's not important that you show up at 10 o'clock and stay until 1 o'clock. You just make a sign if you want, which is lovely. Some of the signs are very creative. I usually get my best ideas online, because I've never had a creative thought in my life. But but Patty is also going to contact you on possible ways to get there. You can you can take the ferry across. That's a little pricey, and take the and walk, I don't know, 7 blocks, or you can take the bus that brings you around there, and it drops you off like 2 blocks away, and that's like $1.25 if you're old like most of us. And so those are 2 possibilities, because obviously last time there was thousands of people there, and I tried to organize a place for people to meet, and I have learned from a giant protest, it is really better if you have one buddy and you maybe just hold hands. You get lost in these crowds. I mean, I literally knew I had a sign for somebody, and she was literally across the crowd, standing over there, and it's like swimming upstream. It's a terrible thing. Okay, bye.
Sally, thank you so much. Thank you. So just